We just heard The Shadows with their 1960 UK hit Man of Mystery, whose twangy guitar sound reminds me a bit of the theme music to Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast. Writer, producer, and co-host of that show, Frank Santopadre, joins us right now. Frank, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ghosty. I appreciate the invite.
Now, I've been listening to your podcast with Gilbert every week from nearly the very beginning, and in doing so, quickly realized that you are something of a film buff.
You might say that.
Yeah, as am I. So you have 2 shows per week. One is primarily an interview program, and the other is something called The Amazing Colossal Obsessions.
Yes, that's right.
And what we're about to do is a complete ripoff of your Amazing Colossal Obsessions.
Well, it's not like what we're doing is, reinventing the wheel.
Right. Well, I thought it would be fun to discuss some obscure and lesser-known films from the 60s and 70s primarily, but we should talk a little bit about the Amazing Colossal podcast, and I'll tell you how I discovered it. I'm always on the lookout for shows that have some of the same guests that we have on this program.
Oh, really?
I have people on like George Maharis, and I had Johnny Mathis on not too long ago.
Oh, wow, we're gonna raid your booking. We're gonna raid your Rolodex.
So I have my ear to the ground with shows that have similar guests, and that's how I discovered your program. I think it was the Adam West interview. So how did that whole project come about?
I'm glad you discovered us.
Well, it's a great show.
Thank you. You're very kind, and you've been a loyal follower for months now.
Yeah.
I remember we found each other on Facebook. It really started as a labor of love. Almost a hobby, almost something for Gilbert and I to do that we thought we would enjoy or would amuse us. I had no idea that it would develop this kind of following. One never knows how many people there are like us out there. And, we were doing such an eclectic thing, or such a niche thing, interviewing people, old comics like Barney Allen, who's now 95. We had Larry Storch, who's in his 90s, and Barbara Feldon from Get Smart, who's in her 80s. And we thought, this is sort of a show for nostalgia buffs or people who care about these people. We thought we'd get a couple of hundred listeners. We really did. And it kind of took off. And being named the podcast of the year by the Village Voice last year was a thrill. I mean, and I couldn't believe it because we're novices at podcasting. But we really touched upon something. Obviously, we hit a nerve.
Absolutely.
It's all been a pleasant surprise. And take you through the origin of it very quickly. Gilbert's on the road a lot. He doesn't drive. He's probably on the road, 40 weeks out of 52. He never got a driver's license, so he's trapped in these cities. He's sitting in a hotel room in Ottawa or Austin, Texas, or somewhere, and he would call me from the hotel room just to amuse himself, when we just BS on the phone for hours about the most obscure topics, and then try to out-obscure each other. An entire phone conversation about Gene Rayburn,
right?
The old host of the Match Game, or Larry Hovis from Hogan's Heroes, or as obscure as we could get. And that was kind of part of the joke. It was an in-joke between us, and kind of the way that our friendship developed was through a mutual love of these people. And Dara, Gilbert's wife, would listen in, and I tell you, these phone calls should have been recorded for posterity. Just sit on the phone for hours and laugh until we couldn't breathe. And then she actually had the idea. She said, "These are all well and good, but why don't you guys do something productive with this, with all this information? Share it with the world. We'll really dig deep. We'll do sci-fi history and old horror films. Gilbert's love for the old horror classics, and we'll do weird TV that we grew up on, and we'll just cast a wide net, and we'll tell the history of show business kind of through our passions and our little oddball obsessions." And that's what it's turned into, really. It started as a lark, and just because we wanted to go meet these people, we wanted to go to their houses and meet them and sit with Larry Storch and Joe Franklin, and then it turned into this kind of oral history, and it's taken on a life of its own.
I also refer to it as the show where all the old urban legends of Hollywood come alive again.
Well, that's all Gilbert, Yeah. That's the gravy. Gilbert brings that element. He brings that whole kind of Hollywood Babylon.
Yeah.
He brings the scandal. Someone said to me recently, our friend Drew Friedman, the popular cartoonist, He said, what's great about the show is you're both pulling in two different directions. You're trying to do a faithful, straight show like Robert Osborne,
right,
about Hollywood history, and Gilbert's doing the Stern Show, or Gilbert's doing Opie and Anthony, or he's doing a more subversive show. I think that's the beauty of it. Is it's the melding of those two sensibilities. He's obviously a historian too, Gilbert,
sure,
in his own right.
Well, again, it's worth it because a lot of the people that you interview, and we're going to go into these movies shortly, folks, if you that are tuning in to listening, a lot of the people that you've interviewed, listen, some have left us. I mean, you might have had the last long-form interview with Joe Franklin. I
think we did.
Yeah, these are valuable contributions, not to sound all...
I mean, again, that's where I say, and I don't want to be too highfalutin about it, but because it really was just a fun thing. We have genuine affection for these people, and I have genuine appreciation for what they gave us, for all the entertainment they've given. Just somebody like Adam West.
Yeah, of course.
I'm trying to think of some of the other guests. Paul Williams, who's a guy that I grew up watching.
Right.
On talk shows, and his work in movies like Bugsy Malone and Ishtar and the Smokey and the Bandit movies and everything, Phantom of the Paradise. And people say, thank you for bringing these people into my life or these movies into my life. It's rewarding.
Well, again, I recommend everyone make sure to listen to it and subscribe if you're on iTunes. Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast. And again, it's twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays. The Thursday show is a little shorter show, but the Monday show is really the heart of the whole program. But Frank, we have to get to work.
Okay,
so
let's hit it.
I asked you to choose 3 obscure movies. I've done the same, and since you're the guest, I'm going to let you go first.
I don't know how obscure they are. I'm feeling like maybe I should go. One of them won an Oscar for an actress. Is that not obscure enough?
Well, you never know.
Should I dive deeper?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll start, and maybe that'll give you...
And then I'll get a feel for where we are.
Well, the first movie I chose...
And forgive me if I don't know them.
No, that's okay.
Now that you've sold me as an expert. People are going to go, this guy doesn't know anything.
Your reputation's going to crumble in the next 10 minutes here.
I can guarantee you I've heard of it and can tell you the director and the cast off the top of my head, but I can't guarantee that I've seen it.
Well, the first one I've chose is a Henry Jaglom movie.
You left me in the dust right there. Is it eating?
No, it's not. Tracks.
Do you believe that sex is directly related with chess?
Walt Disney gave me this. It's Mickey Mouse.
They're gonna get you for what you've done, because they know what you've done.
No, you couldn't keep them happy down on the farm after they take Berlin.
I'll tell you about this film. 1977.
Okay.
Starring Dennis Hopper as a returning Vietnam vet.
Oh, I know this picture.
Right. He is on a train escorting a friend's body for the hometown funeral. And he's suffering from flashbacks. And what happens on the train, and also Dean Stockwell is in the movie. That should almost be a given with the Dennis Hopper picture. Taryn Power.
Okay.
Things seem to be progressing normally. He'll sit in a train car and he'll overhear a conversation between two people. But then suddenly the PSD kicks in, and those people are saying truly horrible, awful things. Okay. And he can't distinguish between what's really happening and what he's imagining. And I've always felt a true horror movie isn't really a monster per se. It's something that seems harmless coming at you and saying something very bizarre. So in other words, like if a 90-year-old woman came up to you with a big smile on her face and said, "I can't wait to kill again."
Don't think it hasn't happened. I live in New York City, pal.
But you would jump out of your skin.
Happened to me last Thursday on the D train.
But it's that sort of unease that this movie puts you in. Yeah,
I get you.
So that would be my first
pick. Kind of
like
the dwarf in Don't Look Now.
Right. Or any David Lynch movie.
Right. Seems innocuous.
Right. So you're up next. Your first pick.
This is not that obscure.
Okay.
Shame on me.
That's all right.
But as we go through the call, I'll dig deeper and change my choices.
Okay.
But here's one that maybe not a lot of people have seen. It was, see if you can get it. I think the year is 70.
Mm-hmm.
The director is Carl Reiner.
Okay.
The star is George Segal. The co-star is the late great Ruth Gordon. Am I getting anywhere?
No.
This is a black comedy that is not for all tastes, and a kind of a film that I don't think Hollywood would make now in a million years. It's called Where's Poppa?
Oh, yes. Okay.
I hope Mama never dies, you putz!
Everybody has a mom, and every mom grows old.
My mother is old.
Gordon Hockheiser was no exception. Now his story can be told.
I mean, old.
Where's Poppa? Starring George Segal, Ruth Gordon, Ron Liebman, Tish Vandergeldenmeer. And remember, Where's Poppa contains the uncut tush scene. A scene so memorable, it has been made into a commemorative stamp.
Where's Papa?
Never put your mother in a home.
United Artists, rated R.
And Gilbert and I have talked about it on the show. It was a childhood favorite. It is an indescribable film, but it's a black comedy written by a guy named Robert Klane, Klane, who was better known for writing Weekend at Bernie's, which became a franchise. And though I admire some things about those pictures, this is a super smart film made by smart people. George Segal plays a lawyer whose life is basically ruined by a mother who has lost her marbles. Ruth Gordon. It is the blackest of black comedies, and he can't get on with his life or have a love life or get a good night's sleep because his mother. Maybe this falls into your category of harmless-looking terrors.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
In its way, it could be classified as a horror film. His brother is played by Ron Liebman. You know that actor?
Yes.
From The Hot Rock, and
yep.
Who's married to the actress Jessica Walter, who's now on Archer. I couldn't say too much about it because I'd be giving away what's fun about it. I suppose it's been described as a very Jewish in its sensibility, Jewish humor.
Sure.
I remember George Segal on a famous David Susskind show with Mel Brooks that you can find on YouTube, where they're talking about this movie, and they're talking about other movies like Bruce J. Friedman's work and Philip Roth, and that whole kind of culture of the humor of Jewish angst and anxiety and fears and depression, and the Heartbreak Kid is such a story. Anyway, it comes from that school. It's very dark. It's very weird. It is arguably the funniest movie I've ever seen. The older I got, the sadder parts of it became. It didn't become any less funny, but the older I got, the more I realized how poignant it was.
You mentioned the comedy as horror film, and that reminded me of one that you had mentioned on the podcast, and one that I had seen in a theater in 1985, and that's After Hours.
Oh, sure.
Which is an anxiety attack on film.
Another one. Another film. And I mean, this is a whole longer conversation about how Hollywood doesn't seem to do black comedies very well.
No, not at all.
I think both of these films were made on the fringe. I think that this was not a big money studio picture. And I wouldn't call After Hours that either. After Hours, even though it's made by Scorsese, is practically an indie film. Well,
my next film here is actually a TV movie.
Okay.
And this one stars Lee Majors, Marvin Gaye, Joey Heatherton.
Wow, you are taking a guy who considers himself to be a film authority and making him look like a blithering idiot. Keep going.
Pat Hingle.
Oh, it's got Pat Hingle in it.
And Jimmy Dean.
Jeez.
This is The Ballad of Andy Crocker.
The movie of the week. Each week, a motion picture made especially for the movie of the week.
Motorcycle, now that is high class, ain't it?
Pop, it's my work.
She's married, Andy.
Oh, come on, Joe Bob, that's not even funny.
Andy, she got married.
You cut your hair.
My husband likes it better.
the finest original entertainment this season, the movie of the week.
You've stumped me again.
Well, you're in luck because this film is...
You weren't kidding about the obscure part.
This film has fallen into the public domain. Lee Majors, I can't believe I chose this movie. He's a returning Vietnam vet. There seems to be a theme in the movies that I'm choosing here.
Yes,
and,
I see that.
He tries to adjust to life back on the mainland. His girlfriend, his fiancée, was Joey Heatherton. He comes back, and she's since moved on. Marvin Gaye is his friend. He goes to stay with Marvin Gaye and his wife as he tries to adjust. Without giving the plot away, it's very similar in tone, and even some of the scenes in the film very similar to The Swimmer, which is the Burt Lancaster.
Picked, yeah,
right.
When Gilbert was hosting on TCM.
This is sort of a low-budget TV version of The Swimmer. It's really what it is.
What is it called again?
The Ballad of Andy Crocker.
Can I find this thing?
You can find it probably on YouTube, probably on any DVD collection from Mill Creek, who release sets of movies from the 60s public domain films. It's 73 minutes long. It goes by...
Did Lee Majors get top billing in this extravaganza?
He sure does. He is top billing. Although, to be honest, Joey Heatherton really deserves top billing in this film. Not because she does anything extraordinary, just because she's Joey Heatherton.
Wow.
But anyway, that's my second pick. What would be your second pick?
Well, I'm ashamed to bring up these two because they're known films. maybe
my last one's known. My last one's a known film.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Well, no. Oh, I see. The last one in your queue, not the last one you mentioned.
No. Yeah, my last movie I'm going to talk about is a known quantity.
I'm not going to go into detail about this one, but since you mentioned TV movies, I will mention another Ruth Gordon picture called "Isn't It Shocking?"
Never heard of it.
It's a movie with Alan Alda playing a small-town sheriff investigating a series of mysterious murders with Ruth Gordon. Take a look at that one. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
And only because you brought TV movies into this. I'll throw three at you quickly and juggle them around, and none of them are really that obscure. A movie that I've talked about it's fairly obscure. It's being remade, actually.
Okay.
And it's another comedy, but this is another dark comedy, but it's also a drama. It's also a heist picture. From 1979, it's called Going in Style.
Oh, yes.
From Park Avenue to Park Bench, from New York to Vegas, from old reruns to young showgirls, from lying in bed to dancing in the street, from senior citizens to stick-up men.
All right, this is a stick-up.
They're getting younger by the minute. George Burns, Art Carney, and Lee Strasberg in Going in Style, a comedy to steal your heart.
Hey, that's what I call service.
Rated PG. Now playing. Please check newspapers for local listing.
Directed by Martin Brest.
Yep.
Better known for mega hits like Beverly Hills Cop and Midnight Run.
Yeah.
Going in Style really quickly, a movie I saw in an 80-cent movie theater back in the day when those single theaters were going out of business.
Right. I saw this in the theater, too.
And you could get, for 80 cents, you could get a movie that was on its last legs. That's actually how I saw things like Apocalypse Now
right.
in the 70s and Animal House and in a little neighborhood joint called the Mineola Theater, where I grew up in Mineola, Long Island, which is long gone. Anyway, Going in Style is about three senior citizens who their lives are sad. They're all widowers, played by George Burns, Lee Strasberg,
yes.
Simon Roth of all people, and Art Carney. And they're living on pensions, and they're bored with their day-to-day existence, and they're just waiting to die. And they decide to add a little spice, a little adventure to their lives by robbing a bank.
Right.
And it's one of those pictures that the studio, I always talk about that kind of disconnect between the actual movie and the way the studio promotes the movie.
Right.
So the poster was three wacky senior citizens with fake little Groucho glasses and a mustache, and they're doing a little dance line, and they're tapping their walkers.
Right.
And it was promoted as, are these cuddly senior citizens rob a bank? Almost like a Disney picture.
Like the Apple Dumpling Gang or something.
Yes,
yeah.
It was if you look at the ads, if you go back and you look at the old ads, it was a little bit, it looked like it was a Disney picture. Like, wacky Ed Norton and George Burns rob a bank. but it was anything but. It was really a beautifully done. First of all, it works as a heist movie. There's suspense. It's funny, and it's heartbreaking in many respects. It's really about it's an honest look at old age. Mm. It's a sweet, smart, well-made film that never insults your intelligence. And George Burns, Carney had a resurgence too as a movie actor, and he won the Oscar for Harry and Tonto, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But Burns, I think, was coming off of Oh God, and it's a very interesting turn because it's not a cuddly film. He's kind of a dark character. It's one of the best things he's ever done. And he had a lot to be proud of. It's a sad, sweet, beautiful performance, and it's not a movie. I guess it's not that obscure, but it's certainly not a movie I hear a lot about.
Yeah, it's true. You really don't hear about that movie at all. And I just brought up on the computer who's going to be in the remake, and it's Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, and Alan Arkin.
Well, 3 brilliant actors.
Yeah.
I just had the honor of writing something for Morgan Freeman. I work at The View during the day, and Morgan Freeman was on, and they asked me to write a little tease, a little comic tease for him between the commercials, and it was an honor to do it, and just it was a little pinch me moment.
Sure, whenever you hear his voice, it's like Alexander Scorby. Right.
Bless your heart for bringing up Alexander Scorby. But I said, I'll write this thing. He'll never do it. He's Morgan Freeman, for Christ's sake. But he did it, and that was a thrill.
Well, Frank, I'm gonna shortchange you in this conversation because I'm gonna have to wrap it up shortly.
Okay, so we're never going to get to the third film.
We're never going to get to the third film. Because I'll tell you what my last one was.
Go ahead, and I'll quickly tell you mine.
Okay, my last one was Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill.
Oh, sure.
If you want fun, ladies and gentlemen, go for a wild, wild ride with the Watusi cats. But beware, the sweetest kittens have the sharpest claws. For your own safety, see Faster Pussycat, Kill. Wild women, wild wheels, race the fastest pussycats, and they'll beat you to death. Superwoman, belted, buckled, and booted, muscle to muscle, bone to bone. For an incredible evening's entertainment, a film so totally satisfying, see Russ Meyer's Faster Pussycat, Kill.
It's such an influential film. I mean, Robert Rodriguez movies.
Sure.
You know, the Tarantino films.
Hitting Navidad in that one?
No, this is Tora Satana.
Okay.
Haji. Both of them have passed. And Laurie Williams. And Susan Bernard is the young girl. And she is the daughter of Bernard of Hollywood.
Wow.
And it's such an influential film and a good film. Something about Russ Meyer... Something happened to him in the 70s when porn started becoming big, like Deep Throat and Behind the Green Door. It's almost like he didn't know what to do. He said, well, I guess I have to try to go in this style, but not do porn.
Right.
I feel like he lost his way. And I feel like his 60s movies are truly outstanding. So what was your... If you want to comment on that, go right ahead. But what was your third movie?
I will just say about Russ Meyer, he would have made a wonderful and perfect guest for our podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm also impressed that you just ran the gamut from Henry Jaglom to Russ Meyer.
They're all equal in my world.
Good Lord, I'm very impressed by your deep dive. My third one, not really obscure at all, because it won Tatum O'Neal an Best Actress Oscar, and that's Paper
Moon, of course.
Keep your sunny side up, high.
Kansas, 1936. Out of the darkest days of the Depression comes the adventures of two unlikely con artists, Mose Prey and his companion, Addie Loggins.
Better go slow and hurry. Uh-oh.
Don't miss this one. From the maker of The Last Picture Show and What's Up, Doc?
You won't be sorry.
And I apologize, and I will admit that I'm only bringing that up because Peter Bogdanovich is coming on the podcast.
Oh, wonderful.
So really, it's just a crass plug. But I watched it with my wife recently after not having seen it in ages, and boy, it is terrific.
Absolutely.
Just a perfect movie viewing amazing experience. And I can't wait to talk to Peter about it. And like I said, this was nothing more than a shameless plug.
Well, for Peter Bogdanovich, it's worth it. I hope you get into, I don't know how you couldn't get into the Orson Welles stuff with him.
Well, I almost fear that we're going to have to do a two-parter here because of we've had 100 guests, and I can't imagine a guest that's going to require more research than Peter Bogdanovich, because he not only knew Welles, but everybody. King
absolutely.
Vidor and, and Cukor and Zinnemann and all of these guys.
Well, Frank, I want to thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us today. I knew you and I would be simpatico in the film buff.
Ghosty or a Prince, to ask me. I really enjoyed it.
I hope that maybe sometime later in the year we can maybe do a part 2 of this.
I'd love to, and I want to tell your listeners what I said off the air, which is that in all my years I've never heard a more perfect radio voice. I said it's how I would design a radio host voice in a lab.
I appreciate that. And again, the podcast can be found, well, basically on iTunes. There is a website specifically for the show, isn't it?
It's gilbertpodcast.com, and they can find the show on SoundCloud and on iTunes, and we're up to 100 episodes. There's quite a library, something for everyone.
Absolutely.
And more to come as long as we can both stay upright.
All right, shooting for episode 200.
Yeah, we got some good people coming on, and I thank you for the support and for the promotion, Ghosty.
Well, once again, my pleasure. Frank, have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Ghosty. We'll do a part 2 sometime.
Absolutely.